Hello and welcome to another episode of Earth911's Sustainability in Your Ear. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, and today we are having an innovator interview with Anita Sanchez, PhD, who is the author of The Four Sacred Gifts, Indigenous Wisdom for Modern Times. It's an amazing book, which I have read in the last 24 hours. You can get it on Kindle, and won the 2019 International Latino Book Award for the most inspirational nonfiction, best self-help book, and best spirituality book. Anita, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm doing well, and thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm really pleased to be talking with you because I read your book, and it recalled for me what I experienced when I heard the Hopi prophecy many, many years ago at Oribe in Arizona, about the urgency of the times and the transitions that we have between different worlds. In this case, we're talking about changing our world here in the physical reality that we live in. And your book is all about how we can start to accomplish that by recognizing our connection to the earth through our relationships with one another. What catalyzed the writing of the book? You began with a wonderful story of a vision by a Mohican elder. Was that the catalyst for the entire experience?
Yes, it was. The Mohican elder, Don Coyas, had a vision. And in that vision was that we were heading into this, we're in this great winter time, and that the two-leggeds, the human beings, had forgotten the relationship, how to be in right relationship with themselves, the earth, and spirit itself. And so there was a call, and 27 elders came from around the world. And in ceremony, they placed 4 gifts into this eagle hoop that had 100 eagle feathers hanging from it. And the 4 gifts were to remind all humankind, it was for everyone, to use these gifts so we can remember how to be in right relationship with ourselves, other people, and the earth.
Now, the loop is an interesting image and one that you return to frequently. It also reminded me of the Ouroboros in Western mythology as well, the snake eating its tail that represents the circularity of life. Now, one of the challenges that you address head on, and it comes from the first of the gifts that you call out, is this ability to forgive the unforgivable. And that seems to me to be where our society is right now. We have a bunch of unforgivable differences, but we have one overriding need to pull together in order to repair our planet. How hard is it to get past those blockers? That seems to be stopping us every day. What advice do you have for people trying to forgive the unforgivable?
Well, as you said, it's not an easy task, but I think it can be made easier by starting, first of all, with forgiving little things, because we've becoming so separated from each other as well as from the earth that we're causing such great suffering. So we could just begin with forgiving the little things, that cumulative effect that allows us then to address the larger things. I know that I have a lot of experience of this, both from personal things that have happened in my life of abuse and the murder of my father that was race-related, but also looking in larger as an Indigenous person. Many of us around the world face genocide. However, the miracle, and it's in all of us, is that we're still here.
Yes.
Because we're a seed and we're meant to be here. We need that whole hoop, that whole circle of life. When we remember who we are and what we are, then these hurts and mistreatments, small and large, we can release them, not forget them, not try to create systems and structures to ensure that hurts and mistreatments like that don't happen again, but rather not to be controlled by those. So we can create, Mitch, the kind of world that we know is what is wanted both by all human beings as well as by nature itself. That hoop of life is meant to be life-giving, and that's what we're after.
And that's a great image. The idea of the hoop of life as also the small community that pulls together to accomplish the goals that they have to live in harmony with one another on the earth. How you've also made a set of calls for action, basically, to make climate change personal this year. Can you talk a little about the steps we need to take in coming to terms with how distant we are from one another and the planet?
Yes, it's first of all, I think it's part of it is owning it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first steps is that we need to treat the world how we want to be treated. And I think we've forgotten that because we've disassociated ourselves from the earth. All those elements are in us, and everything we need to stay healthy and alive is in us. And so what happens is that we need to own it and consider ourselves as being really part of the community. And so I think an easy way to begin is to start with the heart. Every day I begin, and multiple times a day now with everything going on, is I just keep bringing in the images into my heart, not my mind, into my heart. All the beings that I love, all my immediate family, the larger extended family, my community, these trees, the water, the places I've visited around the world. I mean, it just goes on, the birds, everything. And you just start growing that you begin to realize that you're part of all my relations as a Lakota words, image, actually worldview that has spread to Indigenous people around the world and to other people as well.
I also recall reading Black Elk Speaks many years
beautiful.
ago. And the notion to me that was most important is that there are many mountain peaks of insight, not one.
Yes.
And that was one of the driving realizations of my youth, was that we had to be tolerant of one another. But your second call to action is acknowledging finger pointing. And a lot of the times we tend to point at, evil multinationals or politicians or other countries or other races and say, they're the reason we're in trouble. How do you get past that? I think the filling of your heart and mind, as you described, is the way that each of us can start to address it. But what's the way that we can help others take that leap?
Yes, well, we can start looking that in terms of our own lives, because I think it's a natural thing. So I don't want to vilify even individuals. Our first notion is to survive.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very primitive level. And so we blame outside. But if we get quiet, then we can see, again, going back, I keep repeating myself, but it's important to understand we are part of one hoop of life, one world. That changes when we don't get in that separation mindset, how we are part of it. So then I have to look at, well, wait a minute, what is my part in this? What am I doing? When I point my finger at a multinational, yes, they may need to change things, and yes, they may be causing a big part of the problem, but 3 fingers are pointing back at me. And how am I participating in that? What am I purchasing? How am I using my money and my time? And become really conscious of my participation in that hoop of life. So that I choose to be regenerative, just like the earth, there's a generative process that is always happening, life seeking life. Then am I living my life that way? And to really look, just as in business, we look at the whole stream. Mm-hmm. We have to, in our lives, look at the whole stream of how we're behaving from the moment we wake up to the time we go to sleep, to what we're leaving at least 7 generations beyond us from the decisions, the way we're being right now. So I think it's not about not calling for change in big institutions or governments and places that can help make at the policy level change, but it's also looking at our own lives, because we're part of this, so that we're coming in a conscious way and also doing conscious action.
So you're also hearkening back to the owning it on the micro and macro levels. This mindfulness about one's impact on the world and on our neighbors is also really hard and challenging today, because we have so much information to try to understand the micro in particular impacts of our lives. How can we move beyond aspiration to action, in your opinion, with regard to our ability to move a group of people towards sustainable living? I mean, and I think, your fourth or your third suggestion is connect from the heart. Can you talk about how we can use that initial emotional and human connection to expand our feeling for the world?
Oh, absolutely. When we realize it's not only responsibility, it's a great joy to have this intimate interconnection with all of life, with the people in our families and beyond, that compels us, when we really feel that in a heart-centered way, then it compels us to be in behavior that matches that. And so what it directs us to is to some really practical things that I've been using for some time and keep adding to is really looking at how I live my life and talking to my family about that. So, for example, just what I eat or what I leave on my plate. If we could just reduce the food waste, take only what we need, that's an important thing. I think we're driven because of many things that are being said and out there where it drives fear. But if we really look at what do we need, and then we can get into the set of sufficiency rather than hoarding or overly using the bounty of our earth. So I think food is just a great place to start, and just eat what you actually need and be mindful of what that is. So doing more plant-based, it's not making wrong people who eat meat. I love wild meat that's caught, grass-fed beef and other things, but it's also how much of that you need. You don't need much. You can get protein from plants as well. So if we can shift our mindset, we are doing so much, not only for ourselves in terms of our health and reducing diabetes and heart problems, all those kinds of things, but we're also being in the right relationship with the earth and its resources for ourselves and for our children and our children's children.
So a couple of things that I hear is, first, getting into this collective approach is critical to seeing how sufficiency becomes a form of prosperity, because everybody around you is participating and prosperous. And then the other is this lens of 7 generations, looking at how what we're going to do today is going to affect our great-great-great-great-grandchildren and the world that they're going to live in. As and you've done some amazing influencing on this. You have a TED Talk, Humanity's Hope, Connecting People, Earth, and Spirit. It's very inspiring. And can you tell us how, when you see a community in conflict, you suggest it heal?
Yes. I think one of the first steps is, we talk about, it's always said we need peace talks, whether it's at the global level or down into even a home, not even a larger community. I think what we really need is peace listening. That's a profound way to start. And that's listening, being quiet. That means closing your mouth and really getting quiet and going inward. And that's where practice becomes really important, whether it's walking meditation. I don't care if it's just a practice of breathing for 1 minute, just being conscious of what is happening, but getting quiet and listening to yourself first and foremost. And then as we keep practicing that, listen to others. We get so triggered because we're hanging on to, again, out of fear or whatever it is, hurts and mistreatments, that we're not able to listen to the other. And so we just divide each other in all these different ways. And as you said at the very beginning, and so honor you and the work that you're doing and contributing to the world, is because we are truly only one world, one hoop of life. And it is calling all of us. And we know now with what's going on, especially in the health way, it's in everybody's face, everybody's home, everybody's consciousness. What I wanted to do is, if we could slow down to be able to hold on to not only the science and the physical of this, but who we are spiritually, our own divineness and sacredness that tells us, yes, let's be in this collective action. And the best place to start is listening. It's fundamental for us to then know what needs to be repaired, what needs to be healed, what needs to be collaboration to co-create together. So I think it's a wonderful, powerful foundational step.
So we're all facing what I would describe as an enforced pause in our lives because of the coronavirus. It's a very odd time here in the Pacific Northwest. Basically, life has come to a stop. But at the same time, it's an opportunity to reflect and start to think about how to change ourselves. Do you see what we're going through right now as both, nature throws a lot of interesting things our way. And this coronavirus is a challenge. It isn't, as some people say, nature trying to get rid of us because we're the problem. We are part of nature. And how do you see this opportunity to pause and reflect on our consumption, the way we get and share and make things as an opportunity? I'd love to hear what you think about the opportunity to see past all of the nonsense to the real core of our shared experience.
Exactly. And so I'm sending blessings to all of you in the Northwest. We are one of the multiple hot spots now, but the reality we're all seeing me sitting here in Colorado, I know this may be some quiet before the storm, before the hospital rooms get filled up and all of that. And so I think what it is an opportunity for all of us, whatever is our immediate circumstance, to really reflect on our interconnectedness, what really is needed for life. And what I am seeing is that in every major global horrific thing that has happened in the past, there was learnings out of it. There was learning how healthcare, safety, cleaning and cleaning things. There's an understanding about that just because class, race, age, gender, all those things that are part of give us the lens of how we experience the world is not the essence of who we are, and that we are far deeper connection. And so I think it is really, as you said, a compelling opportunity. That just came to me, a compelling opportunity to teach ourselves to through our behavior, through our actions and our words, and our children about self-care. So I'm not talking about, why are we talking about the earth? Well, because the earth is up, and now we have to look at the resources. So we need to look at, do I need to be hoarding medical supplies? Do I need to be hoarding toilet paper? Now there's some practical things that I need to have, washing my hands and all the things when I am in public, if I need a mask. So I'm not saying that, but I'm saying this is an opportunity to do that pause, to really listen, to learn, to discern who we want to listen to, the CDC, to medical doctors, to things that seem to be working, to spiritual leaders, to politicians, what is really being said there, and what is it, the messages we're getting about how to treat each other with dignity, or are we getting messages of more separation and division? And I think, and in that pause and in that silence, when we're coming from our heart, we understand that it is that we get a choice in every moment to be a life-giving connection to ourselves and each other. And that's what I choose. And that's what I hope that everyone that's listening is choosing in every moment.
And we each come to our own special mix of those factors too, to come up with
absolutely. You said it earlier, and I just cling on some of your wisdom as how you're framing and so effectively sharing this conversation, is that there's unity in our diversity. So again, it's not about, that group's trying to tell me what to do, or that group. No, we're embracing our beautiful differences that we have, but we also have to look at our similarities, our needs for sustaining life. And that means taking care of ourselves and the earth. That these are not separate. We are part of each other. And so when we can get in that wonderful understanding of our interconnection and then have our behavior follow those values and that understanding, then, we'll have great learnings out of this terrific challenge and continue to send blessings to all those who are immediately suffering, but also knowing that we're part of what can happen to make it right.
Yeah, and this brings me to the last of the 4 gifts that you called out in the book, and that's the power of hope, which is, as you describe it, the ability to dream and to see wellness and powers to attain it. You also talk about the magic that elders participate in, the indigenous elders participate in. And it struck me as I was reading that the power of hope and magic are the same thing in many ways.
I agree, because we are magical too. And I know I'm a scientist. I'm a behavioral scientist, a PhD in organization development. And it doesn't at all take away that. But what science doesn't look at, although it's actually trying to lean in that way, it's becoming more humble that there's lots we don't know, is this whole spiritual, this whole, call it intuitive, call it magic. There's many different words for it. But what's clear is that's part of our power. And I think the worst thing that can happen to us at this time when we're facing all these challenges is to think we're powerless. Because, Mitch, you and I know we can give away our power, but we are not powerless. And part of that power comes from the sacred, intuitive place of hope. And hope is an energy source. Many of the great inventions we have did not come because people from their 5 senses just figured that out. It came out of a dream. It came out of a vision. It came out of this other way of knowing. And when we have dreams and visions of us being whole and healthy and supporting each other through these challenges, then we're compelled from our heart and our mind and our actions to move toward that vision and image. And that's the hope in action, which is one of the key gifts from the elders from all over the world to help us create harmony and balance again in our world for ourselves, for other people, and with nature itself.
Well, I can't think of a better way to end this discussion. I hope that everybody will take the time to go and read The Four Sacred Gifts, Indigenous Wisdom for the Modern Times by Dr. Anita Sanchez, our guest today. Thanks, Anita, very much for our conversation.
And thank you.
Well, folks, we'll be back with another interview soon. This is Sustainability in Your Ear on the Earth 911 podcast. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe. Have a wonderful day.